Hello, good evening. I welcome you all to today's meeting. We are waiting for a few others to join. So at exactly 4:10, we are going to start the meeting. So we are now around 150. So let's wait a bit. If you get up to 200, then we'll start. Change your name so that you are able to record your name. Kindly change your name to the full name that you used to fill the form. Okay, so kindly change your name for us. Then if you have any question, you can send us a private message or you can join the WhatsApp platform and ask your question and we will be addressed. Quickly, let me unmute the WhatsApp page so that you can send your feedbacks on the platform. Please, let's ask questions pertaining to the program. Those who have challenges, send private message. Don't put them on the page so that the page will become okay. Please, if you know anyone who has not joined, so that they can join. Hello, Brother John. Yes, I think you can start to present your screen to us. Yes, so I think we are now set.
Okay.
I think we can begin.
Okay.
Yes,
Hello.
John, I can see your screen. I can see your screen.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Welcome back to the second or the fourth day of this continuous professional development. Today we'll be looking at planning and support according to the ISO 9001, the 2015 edition. My name is John Van Grace. So now let's look at the objectives for this presentation. What are we aiming at? Now, my aim is that by the end of this presentation, we should be able to discuss organizational roles, responsibilities, and the related authorities. We'll look at actions to address risks and opportunities, explain quality objectives, and how to plan to achieve such objectives. We also try to comprehend the necessary resources and related actions required to accomplishing a good quality management system. We'll look at the role of communication in implementing a successful quality management system. Then last but not the least, we'll end by looking at document control, the what, who, where, and how. Without further ado, we go on to the first discussion. And we are looking at planning. According to the ISO that we are looking at, that's the 9001. As an organization trying to implement this ISO, when it comes to planning, you have to ensure that all your processes that you have planned for the quality management system have been able to determine the risks and opportunities and the actions necessary to address such. So if during the organizational context, you raise some issues for your organization, this is the time you plan how to address such risks. And when if you saw opportunities, this is the time you address such opportunities, take advantage of them to benefit the organization. Now, addressing such risks is to prevent non-conformities and to determine opportunities that will enhance customer satisfaction. Now, doing this, that's looking for risks and opportunity and addressing them with the appropriate action. It makes this particular ISO, that's the 2015 edition, more proactive than reactive in preventing or reducing undesired results. So with this type of ISO, you are able to identify risks earlier and the appropriate actions are taken so that they don't happen. This is not the one that it happens, then you do corrective action. No, this ISO is a proactive one. And this is done through risk-based thinking. I think we looked at that yesterday, where we applied the plan, do, check, and act cycle. So when the resources are made available, you can go back and review those ones so that you understand them better. Okay, now what can we do to get this risks and opportunity? I'm sure some of us are aware of SWOT analysis. Now, with this particular analysis, it helps you, one, from the table I'm showing, consider on the left-hand side, we have the company's strengths and weaknesses. These are all internal issues. So the positive internal issues are the strengths, the negative ones are the weaknesses. Then on the top side, you see opportunities and threats. These are coming from outside. These are the external issues. When they are positive, we call them opportunities. When they would negatively impact on the organization, we say they are threats. So how do we use this analysis to help us plan to address all the risks or opportunities we found? For instance, if we discover the strength we have as an organization, there are questions we are supposed to ask. As strength, what advantage does the organization have over others? What do you do better than others? So these are strengths that you note down. What do people in the market, that's in the industry, see as your organizational strength? And you can get this through surveys or customer reviews. So when you note those trends down, then you go to weaknesses. What can you avoid? You've noticed your advantage. What can you improve upon those that are not advantages? Because those ones that were not advantages are seemingly weaknesses. What can you do to improve them? What are people in the market seeing as your disadvantage? So when you gather all this information, then you use the strength. You use the strength that you have as an organization in relation to opportunity. You maximize opportunity. Now you use your strength to maximize opportunity. If it is a threat coming outside, you use a strength to minimize that threat. If it is weakness, you use the opportunity that you have to identify those weaknesses. And that will minimize the weaknesses. Then those that are threats, how can your weaknesses also lead to more threats? You make sure you minimize the company's weaknesses, and you can come through training the staff. Is it the competency of the staff that are not up to date? Look at that so that you minimize the company's threats. And that way you are able to put down actions or plans that will move the company forward. So this is something little about the SWOT analysis strategy. Now, what actions do we take to identify or to address the risks? Now, examples of risks are failure of processes. For instance, you were running your laboratory machine and there was a problem. Now that problem, if it is a mechanical problem, will it be solved immediately? How long will it take? You look at those possible risks. If there is a power outage or power fluctuation, if you don't have a UPS, it will affect your process. So that's a risk. So now that you've identified, if I don't have UPS, how do I cater for that risk? You buy a UPS to prevent power fluctuation that will cause the machine to damage or to be malfunctioning. Now, another risk is when you do a customer survey and most of the customers are not satisfied with the organization's delivery. That's also a risk. So you may be losing your customers to your competitor. So what do you do as an organization? Are they complaining about on-time delivery or the quality of the results? Do they have doubts about the service they receive from you? These are risks that you look at and you address them accordingly. Now, opportunities. Examples of opportunities may be new customers. Okay, if you are a physiotherapy department in an hospital, are you only looking at inpatients, people who are being referred to you from the physician, or you have a program that will let you step out to organizations. Most people are in these sedentary jobs where they sit long time. People are not using the right chairs. Do you have you recognized that opportunity to go for it, or you are okay with where you are? This is what the ISO does for you. It helps you identify new customers. It gives you that opportunity. And you also determine, is there the need for a new product? For instance, if you are a laboratory, people keep asking for a particular test. You say, oh, we don't do it, go here. They come. In a month, have you done survey or do you collect such information? How many customers came this week asking of this particular test? If they are a number that's buying the machine, that's when you go and do cost analysis. If I buy this machine for this particular test, will it benefit me? If it will not, how can I go about it? So these opportunities will let you know what to do next to benefit your organization. Whether you bring them on the market or you be a middleman between the customer and the one you are outsourcing to. The opportunities also may be the revision of the way you do things. For instance, if you are using a paper system, things are going digital. Would you like to go online? Going online, yeah, and you'll be able to use a SWOT analysis to identify your strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. If it is online, it can be hacked. Your data can vanish. What will you do? What is a system you are putting in place to prevent? So that's what this particular clause, the clause 6, helps you to do in satisfying the requirement of the ISO 9001. Okay. Now, actions to address this risk. If you have the plan the actions, what are you going to do to achieve or to overcome these risks that are there? What are you going to do? So those are the things you look at. And when you identify or you plan the actions, they should be incorporated into the processes. For instance, if you have identified that you normally have results that are not inconsistent, that are not consistent, what are you doing? Okay, you set up a quality control system. You run quality control. You have to now incorporate that into the processes that at the beginning of every shift, this is what is supposed to be done. It is documented. And those who are not aware are trained to know the reason why we are now going this way. Because we have identified a risk. Because even power fluctuation can cause the machine to malfunction. So if you are doing a 24-hour service, especially a laboratory, it is advisable to run your controls at least twice within that 24 hours, at least. Because most people run 3 shifts in that 24 hours. So it is expected to run 3 controls. So you look at that, you might say it is expensive. There are things you can do to minimize the expenses. So when you identify the risks or the opportunity, you plan the actions. Then you implement the actions. You incorporate them into the business system. What you do next, according to our PDCA that we looked at yesterday, you now check, you evaluate the new process or the new action you've added to the operations. Is it working? Is it producing the results you want? And in that way, you see whether it's effective or you need to improve upon that. Now, examples of some of the appropriate actions you can take are assessment or inspection, monitoring, evaluation of the process. So, for instance, conducting internal audits for the various departments Will you do it 3 times a year, twice a year? That way you'll be able to identify risks and find the appropriate action to whatever came out of the assessment. Calibration of equipment. Your equipment, do they need to be calibrated? For instance, if you are using a weighing balance or you use a scale, those scales need to be calibrated at least once a year. You can't be using a scale for 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, and you have not checked whether the balance or the scale is out of order. If you do that, you will not have consistent results. And that's why we have the Ghana Standard Authority. They do such things. You take your equipment and they calibrate it, and it will be in good function for you to avoid some possible or unnecessary non-conformities. Corrective actions. If you find a problem, the corrective actions that you have decided to implement is one of the actions you take to address a risk. Now, standard and specified methods or work instructions. If you have an equipment or a particular test, you have an SOP for it. You don't leave it to chance that, oh, all these people are coming from the university, they are all trained, you are all trained, so they can do it. No, that will not bring consistency in the results. For all you know, somebody may identify red cells, maybe not per the higher magnification field. The person may use the lower one. But if you have an SOP, there will be consistency in the results that is churned out by anybody. Because when the people come in, they are trained. And that leads to competency in the personnel that are in the operational arena. Risk treatment. How do you treat risks that have been identified? There are 5 ways to treat the risks when you have identified them. Because it's not every risk that you can avoid. There are some you eliminate, there are some you go forward and pursue them as opportunity, some you have to share, and some you just monitor. You take no action, but you just monitor that risk. So when it comes to avoiding the risk, it's by no longer performing the process. If you see that, oh, okay, doing this particular laboratory test this way, maybe hemoglobin test, you are using DraftKings solution, and now there are analyzers. Do you still use the DraftKings solution with the spectrometer? Or you still take that risk? You have to avoid that risk because there are better methods now. So you avoid that risk by canceling that method and go for a better one. Now, if you are eliminating the risk, what you do is you use documented procedures to assist persons in the organization with less experience. So if you have particular personnel who is more experienced, when new people come in, they undergo training before they are allowed to work on their own. Even when they are working, if they finish training, they are deemed competent, they are still under minimal supervision. So that means they don't have final authority over results or over activities that are sent out. The supervisor still looks to. That way you minimize the risk. Now, taking the risk as an opportunity will be like investing in a new capital venture, like the equipment I talked about. You've seen this risk, so you take on the risk, go for a new equipment or a new technology so that you can attract more customers. When they get to know that, oh, now, when you go to this place, they have state-of-the-art equipment, they can serve you well. For instance, if you are a radiology department and all you do is ultrasound and radiography, and you have not added maybe ECG, CT, even CT scan alone can pull a lot of customers to you. So that is a risk you can take by pursuing it with a lot of money, and the returns will be very good. Sharing the risk. This can be done by working with customers to facilitate advanced purchase of raw materials. So you find out from your customers, because there are some tests that are seasonal. For instance, if people are traveling, there are particular tests that come up more. This measles, rubella, the titers for those diseases, their demands come up. Have you found out the season when those things or those tests are in demand? Then you plan how to take advantage of that. Taking no risk, as I said, you look at the problem, you monitor it to make sure it doesn't affect the operations of the quality management system. So there is key monitoring of such risk until it is eliminated by itself. Now let's move on to quality objectives. Quality objectives. On this, yesterday we talked about quality policy, which is also known as the vision of the company, the statement of principles. We looked at the Coca-Cola vision. Now, from that vision we read yesterday, you draw out objectives, and those objectives will be at different levels. For instance, we saw that in Coca-Cola, the HR is involved, the IT department is involved, the public relation. So all those departments will have objectives set in fulfilling the quality policy. So what are the characteristics of a quality policy? The first one is it should be consistent with the characteristics of quality objectives. Number one, it should be consistent with the organizational policy, that's the quality policy. You can't ignore what has been said in the quality policy and do your own thing. For instance, if the organization has a statement that it will exceed customer expectation, then you should have, so if you are in a hospital and the hospital says we want to give our customers an excellent customer experience whenever they walk in and they walk out. So as a physiotherapy department, what will you do? What will be a goal you set to satisfy that expectation of the organization? As a laboratory, what will be your goal? Your laboratory results at the phlebotomy, what are the things you do to exceed the customer's expectation? That way, whatever you set will be consistent with the quality policy. Then whatever you are setting should be measurable. You should be able to monitor and evaluate that objective. Is it working? Is there something I have to do to make it work better? If it is measurable, it is achievable. Then you have to take into account applicable requirements. Are there statutory requirements or regulatory requirements or contractual requirements with regard to this objective I want to achieve? You take those things into consideration when setting up your quality objectives. And remember, I said they should be at the different departmental levels. The top management has given the quality policy. From that, you do your own quality objectives. And these are the characteristics. They should also be relevant to the conformity of the product or services you want to give out to the customers so that they'll be satisfied. You should be able to monitor those objectives. That's why they have to be measurable. If they are not measurable, whether qualitatively or quantitatively, you will not know whether it's working or not. The other thing too is they should be communicated. Remember yesterday we said has been developed. The top management has the responsibility to make it known throughout the organization. So from the everybody is aware of the quality policy and they all geared towards achieving it. So if I'm a gate man, I have to those coming in. If I see an elderly person who is in help, I don't have to wait for the person to call for me before I go. No. Then the one at the reception, that's his or her job. The one at the FLEB or the physiotherapy department or the nutrition department, they do their job. The nurses is working out of exceeding customer expectation will be achieved. And through one customer, you can get 10 more customers. And that way, the organization will keep moving from one level of increase to the other. Then, because we are in a world that things change fast, we should keep such objectives updated. We should not leave them the way they are. I've been in lectures where the notes that were used to taught me were 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old. And with such lecture notes, if you're writing the exams and you bring in something new, you may be penalized. So the same way, in your objectives you have set, you have to watch trends and growth that are taking place in your industry. If something is outdated immediately, that means it's serving us now as a threat. You have to now address it with the appropriate action. Finally, setting quality objectives, you can use the acronym SMART, setting goals in a smart way. That means the objective has to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. When you do it that way, you will achieve the results. And whilst doing that, setting your objectives, you have to look at the current capabilities and constraints in the organization, customer feedback through the surveys you've done, and market issues. That way, you'll be able to set an objective that will be relevant in the day in which it was set. Now, how do we achieve the objectives that we have set? We have taken time to do such. We want to release results within, if it is FBC, within maximum 30 minutes, the results should be out. Have you, the 30 minutes you have given, is it for emergency or is for routine? Because if you give a time, if you give an expectation and you don't fulfill it, you have disappointed your customer. So you have to know the consequences in giving timelines. So when you are setting the objectives, things you take into consideration will be what will be done, what resources will be required, who will be responsible, when it will be completed, and how the results will be evaluated. So you have all these things playing in order to achieve your quality objective. What will be done? Okay, we'll release our results within 1 hour if it is an emergency. What resources do we need to make sure the results are released within that 1 hour? We should always have reagents available. We should, if it is online results delivery, our internet should not be breaking or it shouldn't go off. There should be backup for the internet system, for the IT. There should be a backup because if I'm done with the test and the internet is down, you can exceed the 1 hour. Now, who will be responsible in the lab? Who is responsible to make sure reagents are available, to make sure competent people are running the test? At the IT department, who will be responsible to make sure the internet is always stable? At the accounts, who is responsible to make that we are not behind payments for any of these services? When we see all these people and they all understand the quality policy, it will be easier to achieve the results. When will it be completed? Now, in most of our setting here in Ghana, we don't like giving time for completion of tasks. We just tell somebody, do this. We don't give the timeline. When another person comes in and give a timeline, the person is seen to be, this person is too strict. But if you don't give timeline, you will not achieve the results in the time you want it. You may get the results, but it may be too late. So when will it be completed? We set the time, how the results will be evaluated. And it is evaluated, there are ways of evaluating the results of an objective. It could be through the management review meetings, which is done at least once in a year by the top management. It could be through performance appraisals or key performance indicators, or getting feedback from customers or staff meetings. That way you know whether the objectives you set are working. Now, if we want to put in changes in the objectives we have set or in the quality management system, how do we go about it? On this clause, there's 6.3. This is a sub clause, 6.3, planning of changes, is to determine the need for changes to the organization's quality management system in order to adapt to the changes in its business environment, as well as to ensure that any proposed changes are planned, introduced, and implemented in a controlled manner. So a typical example is if you want to move from a paper system to an online system, you don't do it abruptly. You have to do a pilot. You do it along. So the paper system is still in operation alongside the online system. So that whilst you train people and you use both systems, you'll be discovering the hitches or the challenges that come with the online. When you have solved most of the problems, that's when you move totally to the new system. Now, using risk-based thinking, you will be able to identify these changes. And that was the plan. You plan, you do, you check, you act. So when you plan the thing, you implement it, you monitor it. If there are opportunities for improvement, you discover them, then you move on to act on those opportunities to make them better. How will we discover need for a change in our organization or in the quality management system? These needs normally come up during review meetings, auditing, internal auditing or external auditing. So maybe external assessors may have come and identify some things. They help you to make changes to the quality management system. Reviews of non-conformities. Maybe a result was given out and there were problems. When the corrective action was taken, how are you going to use it to make changes to the quality management system? Complaints from customers, from suppliers, from staff. How are you using this to improve the system? Then analysis of process performance. So the key performance indicators, you keep looking at them to find out opportunities to eliminate possible future risks that can affect the organization. So we are done with planning according to the quality management system of ISO 9001. So when it comes to planning, I'm sure now you have an idea what it takes to do planning of addressing the risks and opportunities that come when doing the organization context. Opportunities, how to address opportunities, and how to continually improve the quality management system. Now, let's look at support. Now, yesterday I showed you the PDCA diagram where we saw leadership in the middle. The leadership affects various areas, almost all the areas in the organization. This is where they are needed most when it comes to resources. And the organization provides resources that will be necessary for the establishment. 1, implementation. 2, maintenance. 3, and continual improvement of the quality management system, and for its effective operation. So we should have people who are available. We should have infrastructure. We should have personnel. We should have materials that are readily available for the successful implementation and continual improvement of the QMS in that organization. Now, to find out the resources you need, the organization, before you go for an ISO, the organization would have been operating already. So you look at the current capabilities and constraints. What are the challenges we face as an organization? Do we have challenges with suppliers? Is it because of our delayed payment, or is it because of the kind of supplier we are using? Okay, whatever the supplier is giving us, is it cost effective? Do we benefit from it? Because if the goods the supplier is giving us is not of high standard, maybe the results will be giving us will not be of good standard. And that will also affect the expectation of our customers, leading to low profits. So we determine those resources and take care of them. So the current internal capabilities and constraints, analysis of costs against benefits. So capability, we look at people, the machines we have, the organizational knowledge. What's the organizational knowledge? We'll go to that, I think, later on. I'll talk more about the organizational knowledge when we get there. Then the constraints, the budget. Do we have enough funds? Do we have enough, the good number of resources? These are things you look at when you are determining the resources you need for first establishing it, implementing it, maintaining, and improving it over the time. The first resource is when I saw that people was the number one resource placed in the ISO. Because without so the way you take care of your staff or your employees will determine the way they take care of your customers. Organization has to have the operation and control of its processes and the effective implementation of the system. So you first look at your current workload and the competency of the relevant people. Do you have people who are in the operation arena? Are they all competent? Or you need to hire somebody with a higher experience or somebody with maybe advanced degree to come in to give maybe technical supervision or maybe clinical supervision? Do you need something like that? Do you need somebody to be the quality manager, or you will train people who are already there to take up such roles? So you look at the current workload and the competency of the relevant people. Now, if you want to recruit from outside when it comes to people or use an external provider, you have to consider training for such new people when they come in. Then if it is an external provider, you have to look at establishing service level agreements. Now, there was an organization whereby they were going to have a partnership with an international organization. A representative from that organization outside Ghana came in to assess the process. For instance, if it was samples they were to send outside Ghana to them in, let's say, England, they sent somebody from England to come to Ghana to come and check how the laboratory processes its samples when they are sending it outside. So he assessed it, and where there were challenges, he made them know and they corrected it. And that way, they were able to use the Ghanaian laboratory because they were accredited, they were with a higher accreditation, and a lower or somebody without an accreditation wants to work with them. They have to let the person know this is what we require from you. And they came and offered training, and the transaction was smooth. Each party benefited the way they needed. And the next resource is infrastructure. So you have the people, there must be a place where they are staying. So that one has to do with facilities, equipment, and the services needed to provide conforming products and services to the satisfaction of the customers. Now, with this infrastructure, you have to look for people. For instance, if we want to purchase something, we have to look for the one who is responsible to determine the specification for that particular thing. So if it is an equipment, the laboratory management will state the requirements of the instruments they want. Then the purchasing officer will acquire and provide maybe an invoice or a copy of whatever they are trying to charge to the management. Then they also review. Then activities that need to be established to maintain the equipment will now come back to the lab manager that, okay, when we get you this equipment, you have to be in contact with the supplier to maintain this machine we are bringing. And that way, all these people are involved. So it's not just the building, it's the equipment and the services related to the equipment and the building. So if you have fire systems to detect fires, how often are they serviced? Or you leave the fire alarm one whole year without checking whether it works or not? Do you do fire drills to make sure that your staff, because you might be bringing in new people, they know the routine in case there is a fire alarm that goes off so that they can all work together as a team. The next resource is the environment for the operation of processes. Now with this, you will need input from interested parties. Now we looked at interested parties yesterday, both external and internal. So we talked about the law, the legal side, we mentioned HEFRA, customers, suppliers. Then we looked at management, the staff, trade union. These are all interested parties for the operation of processes. Then physical issues. How will you incorporate some of the issues that present themselves physically? For instance, temperature control, the lighting system. There are some offices you go or labs you go and the lighting is so poor. Because if the lighting is not good, you may miss some things. If your temperature is not good, it will affect the machine. I mostly tell people that the ACs that are in the labs, they are normally not for, in quotes, the persons who are working there. They are to take care of the machines. So if the temperature is not used well, or is not, if the room temperature is not conditioned well, you may realize that your machines will start having problems because those machines were developed at to work at a particular temperature. So if your room temperature is not conducive, there will be issues. Then cleanliness. Are the windows, is the lab a closed system or the windows are open? That alone can cause problem to the machine. So you look at that. Those are physical issues you look at when you're considering the operation, the environment for the operation of the processes. The next thing is human factors. And they can be crucial in the process. If the people working in that environment are not taken care of and they have high work loads and get stressed out, we know what will happen. If they see negative, they will write positive. If they see positive, they will write negative. Because why? They are burnt out. They are burnt out. So is there a system? You put up a system to make sure your staff are not stressed. They are taken care of. When they are taken care of well, they will provide the necessary service to your customers. Then for customers, when there's a challenge with your system, you should let them know why they are waiting. We shouldn't keep customers waiting. For instance, a lab or a physiotherapy, there is power outage. The customer may have seen that the light went off, but he or she may not assume that yours is also gone off. So whilst you are waiting for the generator to come back, or when they went to put on the generator, there was no fuel. Somebody is now going to buy the fuel. You have to alert the customer to know why they are waiting. And that way, there will be this rapport and things will work well. You have a good environment to work and give the intended results to the customer's satisfaction. Now we have these resources in place. So we have the people, we have the infrastructure, we have the environment for operation. And this have to be monitored. We need to monitor these things to ensure that they are performing the tasks we intended them to do. So when it comes to monitoring, it can be by observation. For instance, if you've trained somebody on a new machine, you may have to observe the person to see if the person is doing what you taught him or her. And that will be by looking. Another thing will be maybe by measuring. And the measuring will be by looking at the end results of what the person did. The assignment I gave the person, what was the end result? If the person followed the instruction, the person should get yellow. But if the person does not follow the instruction, the person will get orange. So these are things you use to either monitor or measure the resources that you have put in place. So with the monitoring, it could be just checking to make sure it is working. If a refrigerator is put in the lab, you have a thermometer to it. The thermometer checks if the temperature is always okay. Now, if that thermometer you're also using is not calibrated by Ghana Standard Authority, we don't know whether the temperature the thermometer is giving is correct or not. So these things run in succession. Whilst you are checking something, somebody is also checking you to make sure you are getting quality results from whatever you are doing. Now, with measurement, it could be the calibration, as I talked about the thermometer. The thermometer is calibrated. Your pipette, is it calibrated? Your scale for weighing powder for buffer or for the cycling test, is it calibrated by Ghana Standard Authority? How often do they do the calibration? These things are done to monitor these resources. Now your personnel, how often do they all participate in the EQA or internal quality control that you do? Or is it only one genius who is always doing the EQA? And when the results come, excellent, 100%, you are excited. The day that person will be sick or will not be available, it will not be good. So every individual should be involved. you continually assess their competency, and EQAs or interlaboratory testing helps you to know whether your personnel are up to task. So for the monitoring, you have to determine what you need, the resources you need. Then documentation should be done to demonstrate fitness of purpose. So if my machine is calibrated, there should be a document stating that, okay, the hematology analyzer or the weighing balance was serviced by this company. And this is the report. Okay, the weighing balance is stable, there is no malfunctioning, correct to be used for the next. Okay, the hematology analyzer, it was okay, past calibration, quality control, okay, it is good to go. The lighting system, bulb, when we are now using LED, some are using LED lights, some are using fluorescent light, and you have to make sure you are using the white light to help the work you are doing. So these are things that you continually monitor so that you are in national associations meeting, international meetings, reading, getting to access with learn. Now let's go to measurement traceability. We are to make sure whatever we are measuring is traceable to a particular standard or an international document, or even if it is a local document, it is one that is peer reviewed. Or if it is one that we did in the lab, it should be one that we have confidence in and we have it documented so it can be traced to when whoever wants to know, okay, you said you are using this reference rate, where is it coming from? Or we did a study, this is the document. Okay, it is peer review, we are good to go. If it is a measuring equipment, if it is calibrated or they come and service it, they put a sticker on it, this was serviced on so and so date, we will come back on this date. So anybody who comes can trace that, okay, this was serviced by maybe this company, because I don't want to mention any company. This was serviced by this company. They will come back later. And you make sure whoever comes to service it is a competent person. That's why you assess your suppliers before you do business with them. So the equipment is verified or calibrated, it's controlled. That's the sticker is put on it. The documents relating to that sticker are stored and maintained onto the next service. So we'll go to document retention, then you know what comes to retaining such documents. So on the sticker, it states the status of the machine. If it is a pipette, Ghana Standard Authority will state that calibrated, next calibration, the date will be on it. If it is a thermometer, it will be calibrated. If it is a machine for analyzing samples, it will say maybe serviced, to be serviced on this particular day. It was serviced by so and so, to be serviced on this particular day. So all those things are stated, and that way you are able to trace whatever you are seeing in the lab to a particular service provider, document, or individual. So to ensure continual improvement, you have to have schedules for maintenance and calibration of all your measuring equipment, from the thermometer to the pipette, to the weighing balance, to the machines themselves. You have to have schedules for them so that there are some you may have to be, maybe Ghana Standard Authority will recommend that you can do this once a year or twice a year. You follow their recommendation, then you do it. You have it set up. Maybe at the beginning of the year we do it, in the middle of the year we do it. Then it covers it. if any of them come back from Ghana Standard Authority. Now I'm using Ghana Standard Authority because they are the ones I know do such calibrations for most of our measuring equipment, aside the analyzers. So when it's not fit for work, they will state that unfit, and they will give you a document letting you know why they declared that maybe thermometer unfit. So with such things, you have to label them accordingly. Unfit, maybe this weighing scale is unfit. It cannot give you accurate weight of anything that is put on it. So we state it on it unfit. Then we have documents relating to it. Then we will find out, is there a way that that thing can be resolved? Do you need a service provider to come and check, or an engineer to come and check if that can be resolved? If it is a machine, maybe during the calibration or servicing, they discovered a bigger problem, so it can't be used. When you put it on, it works all right, but they are saying no, it will not give you accurate results. What you do is you put not in use on it. Documents relating to that are kept so that you are looking at actions or solutions to such problems. Organizational knowledge. Now, this knowledge is specific knowledge of the organization, coming either from its collective experience or from the individual experience of its persons. And this is a big resource to any company. So you have to have procedures or processes that will maintain this kind of knowledge, which are necessary for the operation of its processes and to achieve conformity of the services you render, and also encourage the acquisition of new knowledge as they come up. Now, persons of any organization and their experience are the foundation of the organizational knowledge. So it's the personnel's knowledge that serve as the foundation for the organizational knowledge, because they get this through the education they went through and the experience they've gathered over the years. And this can generate synergies leading to the creation of new or updated organizational knowledge. How do we maintain or determine and make available such knowledge? How do we determine, maintain, and make available this kind of organizational knowledge? Now, internally, we can get knowledge from failures, near miss situations, and successes. So we learn from failures. The knowledge we get from that failure becomes a valuable knowledge for us. It will prevent us from having the same problem the next time. We nearly missed or we nearly made a mistake. We find out why did we nearly make the mistake. We take that knowledge and keep it. And this serves as an organizational knowledge. You may not find the same kind of knowledge in another company in the same industry. Now, internally too, we can gather knowledge from customers and our external providers. So customer feedback is very important. When you get that information, it's a huge investment into your company, because they are telling you things you may not know or things you may have ignored. So when you get such information, they are value to your organization. They add value to your organization. Maybe your external providers, they tell you things you are not aware of. These are kind of organizational knowledge that can be kept in the organization to ensure the processes are efficient and effective. Then through mentorship and succession planning, we capture knowledge from our seniors onto the next generation. So when the person leaves or retires, that knowledge is not taken away. It is still kept in the system. If the owner of KFC had not captured the recipe for making the chicken, KFC would have died. The owner is dead long time. The same for Coca-Cola. The owner is not there, but the recipe is still there, and it keeps the company moving forward. So these are things we keep in the organization. Then we can get from external sources, benchmarking. We look at the best companies in our industry and learn from them to better our processes. From the intranet, for instance, if it is a company that has branches abroad, that company may have a common server where the various employees from the different countries can learn from. Is it from library, attending workshops and blah, blah, blah. You get information from there and it is used for the benefit of the organization and forms part of the knowledge that is in that organization. Our competence. All what we have been talking about so far has to do with supporting the quality management system. So we've looked at the resources where we talked about people, infrastructure, the environment we work in. We looked at measurement, traceability, and how to monitor the things we have brought, the resources we have brought in. Now we are looking at competence. Now, as a company, you have to define or determine the required competence for the activities in your company. That will lead to delivering the expected results or the service that your customers will be satisfied with by making sure that those who are involved in such activities are competent. A competency can be based on education, experience, or training. Those are the three areas that competency can be based on. And how do you determine such? You do that by job description or by job evaluation services. Job evaluation exercises, you will now determine that the education, training, and experience makes a person competent for the work. The person may come out straight from school. That does not mean the person can perform the activity in your company. They need to be trained. And whilst they are trained and they keep working, they gather experience, which forms part of their competence. How do you confirm somebody's competence? So if the person said, I've done this course from the university, through interview, we can determine whether the person is really competent. Reviewing their CVs, maybe you let them do something so that you observe, or did they go for training? You look at those training certificates, and that way you can confirm the competency of such based on education or training. How do you evaluate such competence? By observation or by looking at the end result of the activity you gave them to do. So if somebody comes in and we train the person in the lab, we watch, for instance, if it is pipetting, influence the kind of results that will come out from the machine. So we watch all those things. If we evaluate that it is right, we now deem them do this activity. If it is microscopy, is it for parasitology or hematology? If it is hematology, is it for the or is for blood film comment? All those things are stated so that when there is any challenge, we can go back to those records and see that so and so why so and so happened. Then the correction is done to ensure that there is no reoccurrence of such activity. The processes we put in place, if they are not communicated through the organization, there will be no awareness. It could be a document sitting in somebody's office, and the person might be assuming that everybody is aware, just because he may have maybe said it to one or two people. But we can only attain awareness, not just by giving information, but letting all those who are involved in the quality, in achieving the quality management system, understand their responsibilities and authorities, and they will and know that anything they are doing would contribute to the successful implementation of the quality management system. So awareness is attained by letting people understand what their role is in achieving this system. Now, how do they also demonstrate this awareness that they have attained? It is by differentiating between what is acceptable and what is not. So if it is the purchasing department, they know these are the kind of products we can now buy into this organization. We don't just buy any product because it's available. There are specifications to the products we want. Because when we get the right product, the next department can also give the right results or service to the customer, and we will all achieve the same success as an organization. So, as I said, awareness is achieved through communication. And communication can be in all sorts of forms. So, to the external relevant interested parties, the way the organization will communicate to them with regards to the quality management system is by giving reports. And as I said, if it is a purchasing department, specifications, invoices, or service agreements. So these are the kind of communication that are sent out to the external relevant interested parties. Now, internally, how do we communicate? It could be through daily contact, written reports. When a person comes in new, it could be the job description or job specification, brief sessions, or email that is sent to staff in the company to keep communication flowing. How can you have effective communication? Effective communication, because it becomes effective when the purpose for which that statement was sent out is achieved. So for the communication to be effective, it must be transmitted and received quickly and acted upon. So if it is a problem that has to do with the internet, so if the IT people came in earlier and realized that today the internet may be a bit slow, immediately they send a memo out that, okay, all outlets, those are the front desk, those in the lab, those in the nursing department, in the physician office, this is what will happen. So let's manage it for this time. We are still working on it. But if you enter the office, things are slow, you call before they tell you, oh, we are working on it. It doesn't help the operation of that organization. So for communication to be effective, it has to be done quickly and acted upon. Then trust should be built among the people. If you do what you say, the people will trust you when you say something another time. But if you don't do what you say, there might be mistrust, and that is not good for an organization. So we have to walk our talk and not just talk. So before you talk, you make sure there are resources to back your talking. You have the authority to enforce that talking. You have the authority to implement that talking, so that there will be trust even in your team, the team you are leading. Now also, the importance of customer satisfaction should be communicated across board. It shouldn't be only, for instance, if it's whereby we forget the ultrasound people, we forget the radiology people, we forget the lab, we forget the nurses, because we assume, oh, they will do their work. No, we should let them know the importance of the customer satisfaction, so that if there is speed they can add to their work, they do that, so that the organization can achieve its goal. And as we work, we can identify opportunities for improvement. And that is good for every organization. It should we shouldn't stay at one place for so long. We should keep looking at opportunities to improve our activities. Now, yesterday, during the discussion after the presentation, I think one Madam Comfort said, what we are discussing is not necessarily to just get it or get the documents and put in place that, oh, yes, I attended it. No, it is, the idea is for you to start something in your small area. So if it is the laboratory, maybe you are in the hematology department, how can you implement this at your level without much capital investment? What can you do? Comes to cleanliness, do you clean your bench every day? Do you use when you are buying slides, are there specifications? Because you're already buying slides, so you can put in specification now. Maybe you are not adding specification, you cannot add in specification. Maybe reagents, you wait for the service provider to bring it, and now you can now give them timeline, because from data and information, you now have evidence that I have peaks during this month and I have lows during this month. So these are the months I may need more reagents. So these are things to apply at the lower level, whilst you look at communicating it to the management to do it for either the whole hospital or a particular department. Now, let's look at documentation. According to the ISO 9001, all documents need to be controlled. And the controlling means is either a maintained document or a retained document. Now, if it is a maintained document, according to the same ISO, it means that document is up to date. So example of such document would be your work instruction, your SOP. Are you still using the old SOP, the old method? Because, for instance, if you buy kits, if you use kits for some tests, and you don't read the packet or the package insert, you'll be surprised that they have changed just one step in the test that you thought is the same old way. So when you get a new set of kits, first you look at the batch number. Has it changed? Is there a new information? So that's why we say your relationship with the supplier. Because if you have a good relationship, the supplier will alert you ahead of time that, okay, we'll be sending you this set of reagents with this batch number, but these are the new instructions from the manufacturer. So prepare ahead of time. Maybe in 3 months' time, you may be getting that kind of reagent. So you have to also now update your documents, and that means you are maintaining them. So your work instructions, your manuals, your forms, things that have to do with the quality objectives and the policy. So those are things you maintain. Then the things that you retain, the documents that you retain, are the ones that serve as evidence that, okay, these requirements in the ISO, I have achieved it, or I didn't do it. And you have the stated reason why you didn't fulfill that requirement. So those documents are retained. And as I mentioned yesterday, it could be your business certificate, it could be the license from the regulatory authority in the country. Those things are kept. So these are documented information that we either maintain or retain. Now, creating and updating the documented information, make sure that the documents that are created, they have the appropriate identification. They are in the right format, and they are reviewed and approved by the appropriate person. So for the identification and description, the document has a format that, okay, we first give a title, a date, who is the author, the reference number. So we do that for the identification of the document. Now, in what format do we keep the documented information? Will it be hard copy, electronic, or both? So that is also stated. Then we find out in what method are we putting in place to make sure that before the document is used in the organization, it is reviewed and approved. So we delegate somebody who reviews and authorizes documents before they are used. So not just anybody will come in with a document and say, okay, now this is the one we are using. No, there should be chain of command for certain so that records are kept. And that is the controlling of documented information. The control will have to do with the availability of the document, the distribution, and the protection. So there should be the controlling of that document, and that means the availability, distribution, protection. And we should also look at the security risk when it comes to online documents. We need to do backups of whatever we are doing? If it is a machine, do we do backup of the results that we have on the machine? Or these are all things you do to control your document. Then, for example, if it is an electronic system, you need a password before you enter that system. It's not anybody who comes, clicks on the icon and gets access. No, there are things that are protected. If it is a PDF, is it only read only, or they can edit it? These are things you put in place to control the document. Then we look at version control. If a document is updated, so we give the older one, if it is 1.0. If a new one comes in because of changes in the procedure, we say, okay, this one is 1.1, because then 1.0 is retained at a particular place where it is under the authority of one particular person. If 1.1 is also changed again, it goes to 1.2. We do it that way. And the version control is what we can say that at that time, this was the document we're using, not this current one. And that way you get yourself protected. So you take care of the obsolete documents. You don't just discard them. And they should be preserved and be in a condition where they can be read easily. Retention. How long will it be? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? Now, some of the retention times are based on the laws of the country. Some are based on the service provider. Some are based on your partners. And some are designed by the organization that, okay, for us, any request form that will come in within 1 year, we will discard it. Within 2 years, we will discard it. Within 3 years. When you are discarding such sensitive documents, there should be a procedure to make sure that whoever is doing the incineration does what has to be done. You don't give reports of lab results or any medical reports to a company that they should go and incinerate, whereby nobody is following them. Appropriate procedures are not in place to know, okay, these are the kind of this we gave them maybe from March 2019 to March 2020. There's no document. We don't know which ones went. No, there should be a system to check all those things. And that way, we are able to protect sensitive information. Make sure if they say they will burn them, they are burned as they should be. And that way we protect ourselves from any legal issues that may arise when such things come out. So that has to do with the control of the document. I think I'll bring my presentation to a close, then the moderator will take over from here. Hello, Ivan.
Yes, thank you so much. Today I didn't want to break you, so you had the entire 1 hour 30 minutes to do justice to the topic. Thank you so much. And I think each and everyone has been blessed with your session, and we are not the same in terms of the knowledge we have added to our scope. So we appreciate your time and energy and the in-depth of knowledge that you spit out. Now, it's time for questions. So let me go to the participant dashboard and see those who have raised their hands. Then we'll call them. Okay, Madam Comfort actually sent me a message that he had some contribution to make based on yesterday's submissions. So if you see, I'll call her. But to begin with, I have Danso Kunadu Helena. If you can unmute yourself and ask your question, that will be fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
I don't know.
we can hear you.
Okay. Please, I don't know if it's other matters because my network over here is very bad. So I was having problem in connecting. So I don't know what they said previously. But what I want to know is in setting up lab, at what level or rank do you have to attain before you can have access to a lab? And my second question, can one use a license to operate multiple labs? Because I know of a pharmacy, for the pharmacy councils, they use a license, one license to operate a particular pharmacy, but not multiple of it. So I want to know that of the lab because I know a lab in which the person as employed hired someone with a license to operate, but the same licenses are being used to operate several labs at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rajon, this one, is it in your court?
I think this is an open question. Okay, what yes, I know question. Is, I think the first question was not clear, but yes, the follow-up question has to do with the licenses. I don't know any laws at now from HEFRA that limits lab scientists serving as the principal MLS for a facility. The person can be the principal or the supervisor for more than one. That's what I have known. If it has changed, I'm not aware yet. So maybe with time, they may also bring in laws to limit the number of times you can use your licenses for the opening of a laboratory. Because the purpose is for you to monitor and supervise such laboratory to make sure that they are conforming to the requirements of the regulatory body. So if you scatter your licenses, if you are in Accra, your license is in BA, Brown Harfor. You have opened a lab in your name in Tamale. In Accra here, you have about 3. I think that one will not be appropriate. So with time, probably they will bring in restrictions to the use of licenses, because formerly the pharmacy council, you could use one license to open more than one, and with time they limited it. So we might also get there one day.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, the what you just said is what is happening. There's no guidelines. I think the allied health that even supposed to guide us, as well as even the association. I have one question about it. Even if the association, even if the council and HIFRA has not come out with some of these policies, I believe that at least the association could give us some guidelines so that we can follow. Yes, although it's not legally binding, but at least that will serve as a guide to every member of the association. If there's anyone on the platform who has a contribution to this topic, I know there are seniors here. There are people of the association, maybe they are all here. So if you have any contrary information, you can also share with us, and our sister will be blessed. Thank you so much. Baini Asiedu Isaac, kindly ask your question. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, my question is not about, I think maybe it's other matters as the lady said, but I'm asking some of us where we are, the network is a big issue. We would like to go over whatever they have taught us. I'm going to have the slide sent to our emails or maybe put it on their page for us to download so that we can revise whatever we've learned here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For sure, there's going to be such possibility to get all the content, including the videos and the presentations, not just the slides. So there will be, we have a course module on our website where we're going to load all the courses that we've taken and the content up there. So you have to, if you've not gone through any of them, in fact, you are supposed to go through before you can even download your report, your certificate. So there's arrangement for that. So you get the content once we are done with the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
I think there's a question here from something.
Okay.
Duce or something.
Okay.
He's saying, do we have specific licenses used for opening laboratory?
Yeah.
The licenses. Okay,
Yeah,
I think Evans, you can come in.
Me, I've not shown video. Yeah, so that is the program.
Hello, Evans. Are you talking here or you are somewhere else? Okay, so yeah, so with that one, I think the only information that I've come across is that is from degree, those who have degree holder and above, they can lead and start a lab. That is the only information I know. I don't know if you also have any other.
And then currently, that's the only information. The
Evans.
person has to be a medical laboratory scientist.
Hello, John. Hello, Evans.
Yeah, I wanted to add up to the setting up of the lab.
Okay,
she wanted
okay.
documents. You experience to set up your own lab. But if you are BMS, then you can start a lab after you have like 2 years experience. But with technician, you need to have 5 years experience to set up your own lab.
Good information. Good information. All right, so I think the other matter questions are well digested. Baini Asiedu Isaac, or you are done with your question? Baini Asiedu Isaac, if you are done with your question, kindly lower your hand so that we will not disturb you. Martin Kofi Abwaji, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, Mr. Evans, I'm very grateful for the presentation, and I think we've learned a lot here. But then with the other matters that you were talking of, with the BMS, with the BSc, is it that just after school you can just, regulate or give your license to somebody to open a lab? I think that one too has a number of years you have to serve before. Unlike the
Yes, even just said that it's 2 years. From HIFRA, it's 2 years. If you're BMS, you have to have worked for 2 years. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay. So Bini, do you still have a question, or okay, you've turned your hand down. Thank you. So it means you don't have further questions. Madam Comfort, is she here? She actually sent me a message that she wanted to make a contribution.
I think she was here, but since she's no more, she raised the hand.
No, she is here. She's on the platform. Madam Comfort, you can hear me? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
So you are welcome.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. And good evening, colleagues.
Good evening.
Yesterday, what I wanted to add is that, this QMS started as an industrial program. So if you look at the ISO 9001, it's more of industrial application. It was set for industries, but over the years, they saw that it can be applied to other sectors of institutions. So if you look at the ISO 15189, it's a combination of the 9001 and then 17025, which is for the physiochemical laboratories, like the pharmacy labs. So the management review aspects and that of the, for the 9001 and then ISO 15189, you see that the management review aspects are the same. But when you come to the technical requirements, that is where the difference come in. This is what I want to clarify yesterday, and I didn't get the opportunity.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Okay, so Idrisu Wahanatu, kindly ask your question, but you don't have a mic on. So I don't know if your mic is faulty. Kindly check it and unmute yourself and ask your question. Idrisu Wahanatu. Idrisu Wahanatu. All right, so
Evans, I think there is another question. Yeah, a follow-up.
Okay, are the questions side, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
okay.
Evans Faye has to come in here. It's a follow-up to the 2 years of experience after obtaining the bachelor's degree. They want to find out, does the 2 years include the national service?
National service. It is. It's part of, it should be part. Yes, I think it should be part. National service, you can't say that the person has not worked. It's working.
The person has worked.
So I think it should be part. Yes, I think it should be part. Once you've graduated, you graduate from the university, any other attachment or whatever you do, I think it's a job you are doing. So unless probably you didn't work on the field, or maybe you went to do some other thing and you are just coming. But once they say 2 years after graduation, then I think it's 2 years.
Yeah, and I think the experience too has to do with the laboratory setting, because if your internship or the national service went into teaching, or the areas, the lab where you went to was not a clinical lab, then that means it will not add up to the 2 years they are looking for. So it has to be clinical laboratory experience.
Exactly. Exactly. With the class, I'll look for the exact information in the first document. Hello, I think John was speaking. John, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was saying that the experience will be clinical laboratory experience. So if you get an experience that is not related to the clinical experience, then they will not count it as one of the 2 years experience. So if you went to maybe cocoa research and where you were doing, what you were doing was not clinical, it will not be accounted as an experience in relation to the laboratory. So there'll be clarification with that. So there's a question here again from Christian Godson. He's asking, how do you know the calibration done by Ghana standard authority is accurate? For instance, the weighing scale and thermometer. Okay, the simple answer is the Ghana standard authority is also accredited. They are being monitored by an international assessor. So they are not just there. They are not only regulated by the government. They have international accreditation to do what they are doing. So they go through external assessment. That's why we can say that we are confident in the results we are receiving from them. So you can read more about them. I'm sure they have a website where they will give you more information about their accreditation. So there is a credible organization to give you feedback on such.
Okay, that being said, Brother John, I have this question or a suggestion to say that whilst we are looking at the standard board doing the calibration and all those things, I think it's also an opportunity for us as professionals. We can align businesses around that area. Calibration and verification of machines and equipment, they are things that we can also do. So we can look into establishing business around that aspect. Just as in the ISO, although we are talking about ISO and its implementation, it doesn't mean that is the only standard that everyone should go for, or we have to go for international assessors. If we could establish equally strong agencies in Ghana, we could use them, and I think there are angles that we also have to look at, even including with this proficiency sample testing and all those things. I think we can begin something from that angles, and that will reduce the costs and ensure most of our facilities get these standards in place.
Yeah, well said. And that's when the association has to come in. So we should take advantage of the human resource we have, the experiences we have in the association. Because people have individual experiences that you may never know until you harness or you contact them. And we can make valuable output from such experiences. So, well said, we should take note of that and we can work towards that direction. We don't always have to go to another country to have them assess our facility before we get accreditation. We should believe in our own. And we, as a country, we are saying we should believe in made in Ghana. So if we go for it and we believe in the capability that we have, we test it from the lower level with experience, we can become a bigger facility. Because in this sub-region, West Africa, there is no, I think Nigeria has one, and they don't come out to say, okay, let's go to Ghana to influence them. See, but if we come out and we have an appropriate lineup vision, so we can do big things. West Africa is big. So from Ghana, we can go to other regions and help them achieve that level of accuracy in service delivery. At the same time, helping our patients get well treated and managed. Because if they are alive, you don't know who will be treated in another country. Could be a family member. But if we know that they are all using the same processes, then we are rest assured that we'll get results from whatever they are doing in any other laboratory across board.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Martin Kofiabo, you are back with another hand. Kindly unmute yourself and ask your question or make your input.
Okay.
Yes.
The other matters. I was still contemplating about the categorization of the CPD points with the allied health to the peer renewal. And then what I wanted to know, it appears not all the programs fit to either A, B, and C. So how do we know this program fits to A or this program fits to B and then C? If anybody has any idea about it, because I can see like management issues and these control stuff are all under either B or C. And then the clinical dealings like the chemical pathology side and the microbiome goes under the A. That is what I've seen so far under what some people have done. So I don't know if we can be about that.
Okay. I think that the B and C is more on practical, focus on practicals. Then the A is mostly in theoretical. If you look at the structure of what they've developed. So we actually went to the council today to find more information because our course was accredited when they had not started implementing these categorization issues. So we went there today, but unfortunately the gentleman who is supposed to attend to our request has step out, and we are trying to reach him, and we've not been successful yet. So we are working on it, probably, God willing, by close of the section tomorrow. If you have any favorable update, we will share with you all.
Okay, there's another question from Nancy. She's asking, please, would you like, okay, she would like to know if you still have to change the version number if nothing is changing the document during review. No, you don't need to change the version number. You only change it if there are changes, there are new addition, and not if it is grammar. It's only grammar that changes the procedure significantly. But the changes are maybe there's a new instruction from the manufacturer, so you update it, or there's a new knowledge in that area where you need to update your procedure. So when you do those changes, then you give it a new version number. But if there are no changes, you keep the same version number until changes come. So with that, the side document have a place called the history of review. So when there are changes, they state it. If there are no changes, they keep the same version number, and it keeps going on to new changes come. So the answer to your question is you don't need to change the number if there's no change. Then another question is there any plan in the system to ensure all clinical labs meet standards and are accredited nationwide? Over to you, Evans.
The basic answer to that would be yes. Because if you look at our training and the knowledge we are all sharing is to get ourselves standardized. So there's a general cry for all of us to standardize our operations. But as to the effectiveness and who to lead nationwide, that is another question we have to answer. That is why yesterday we were talking about it. 2 days ago, I spoke about Ghana's, which was mandated to accredit labs for 15189. But as at now, they've not accredited any lab in Ghana. And none that we know outside also. Then we know HIFRA also looking at its own infrastructure-wise, what facilities should have. So there's a general consensus that we need to standardize our operation. But as to how, a plan, I think that one is not available. But there's a general, if you look at the laboratory front, for instance, everyone is pushing to get their centers accredited. But it also comes with a cost and all those things. So of course, not all facilities can go for ISO. We have to agree that. And ISO is not the only standard. If you take the College of American Pathology accreditation, they had a section of ISO in it, but it's different. So that is not the only accreditation, but this particular training is to avail ourselves to what standardization is all about. And we are just using the ISO model and protocols so that we understand how quality and standardization is being applied in our various field of work. Yes, so wherever you are, think ISO. Even if you don't have any agency accrediting you as an ISO, think ISO, implement ISO. What we are saying here are things you can implement. So implement them at the right time when you have the resources and you need an assessor to come in to make it run up, then I think that will help. But whilst waiting, think ISO, implement ISO, and plan around ISO. Thank you. Likewise, any other department, not only lab. I mean, as we are being biased a bit because we know that majority of the population are lab, but this knowledge applies to all departments. I mean, quality is universal. Customer retention and customer appraisals are all universal. So there's no way, I mean, if you're a dietitian, you think that is not applied to you. So it applies across board. All right, thank you so much. Rajon,
Yes.
any other input? We are running up.
Okay, so what I'll say is all what we've learned so far in the last 4 days, we should, when the resources are made available, we should review them and see how we can implement them in our own small area. Because excellence is important in the service we deliver. If it is physiotherapy, what will you do to ensure that when your patient is living there, they are living with a smile on their face? Or do they get home and say, I wish I didn't go there? If it is a lab result, is a doctor who received the lab, is the doctor happy with what he or she saw? If it is radiographic, the report that was sent to the facility, were they happy with the results? So we should go back to the various clauses, ISOs we have discussed, and see how we can implement it. And with time, when you need consultation, MMA Lab is a team. So we don't end here. When the program ends, that's not the end. If you need anything, you can consult us and we'll take it from there. I think we have all learned from each other. Yes, over to you, Evans. Hello, Evans. Evans is offline. Hello, Evans.
Yes.
Over to you.
Yes. I think my other line went off, so I couldn't hear, but I know you spit out the right information. All right, so it's 6 o'clock, and I have this last message to share by Paul Amwa. He said, quality is everyone's responsibility. So let's carry this information to our various workstations. Thank you so much. Hope to meet you tomorrow, the final day. Do well to join us so that we climax the whole training tomorrow. Thank you so much. See you.
Tomorrow. Evans, wait.
Okay.
Tomorrow. So Ghana is playing football. So
Okay.
I think
What time is Ghana playing?
It's at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m.
3 to 5.
Yes.
Wow. Then we may be forced to start at 5.
So majority would like to watch the football.
Yes. Then it's likely we have to start at 5:30.
Okay.
Evans.
Okay. And tomorrow is a holiday, so if we can do it earlier.
Okay, that one too is a possibility. So let's keep talking on the
Because
page.
if Ghana wins, they will be jubilating.
If Ghana lose, they will not come. Okay, so
if Ghana wins, no, I didn't say
let's get talking on
wins.
the page. We will conclude on that and send a message on the page. Yes, many are saying earlier is better.
Okay.
So let's look at that. Probably we'll do it earlier. So we'll communicate the timing on the WhatsApp platform. All right, thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. Bye. Hello, Evans. Yeah, Charlie. Hi. What's it saying? My foot, right? What was it saying? Oh, over panel, Diana. Over panel. My uncle, my uncle, imagine is carry you there, my okay. One. Born yes, I was born started in 4. Born started 1 and 3. 4. No, there was 3 to 5. Yes, started 1 now. Not 3 now, yeah. 12:30. Into that. No, yeah, maybe into. One hour, 30 minutes, maybe. No, one, I'm a plan, so we do 1 hour. Maybe. Now I can say,